Hi, welcome to Glass. It's not just for windows anymore. I'm Stacy Kelly, and I'm a glass artist. You might be asking yourself, what's a glass artist doing presenting at a home improvement fair? And that's a fair question. Pretty good question, actually. So a little background about me is probably in order. I come from a construction family. My first job at the tender age of 14 was as a roofer. I moved on until I wound up being a finish carpenter. So I can set trim-a-wound windows like nobody's business. I left the industry in my mid-20s because it is so physically demanding, and I wanted to be able to still move. And I'm proud to say I can bend over, reach for something with a stretch, and not have my joints complain too badly. Then about 15 years ago, I found glass, or should I say we found glass. The other half of this artist team is my husband Christopher, who's sitting there running the slide presentation for us today. His background is as a mechanical engineer. You can almost see where this is going. It was almost a given that we would wind up aiming glass into architectural applications. We started creating architectural applications and installed our first project in 1999. By 2000, we were doing things like this. So let's talk about glass. And let's talk about some of the most common uses of glass in our homes. We all have these. Windows, mirrors, lamp fixture globes, and drinking glasses. All right, some of you don't have glass for drinking out of, but they're very common. Less common uses in our homes: tile, sinks, and furniture. Now, the less common items are all readily available on the commercial market. Glass tabletops in particular have been around for a long time. And we can even find them in lawn furniture. We trust glass in those applications. As homeowners, we want beauty, easy maintenance, and longevity in our home and our home finish. Glass fulfills all these requirements. But many people are still hesitant to choose glass. So let's address some of those reasons. Glass fears. It will scratch. The truth is, every surface can be scratched. For many people, it's easier to accept glass when it's placed vertically, as in a window, or on the wall, since you're not going to be sliding things across it. For that matter, you're not going to be walking across it, as you would in a flooring application. Grinding in salt and gravel, you know, that reality of all of us who live in Minnesota. Admit it, even if you take your shoes off at the door, that stuff migrates through your house. It's going to go across your floor surfaces. Interestingly enough, we have very little fear that our wood or ceramic tile floors are going to be scratched. Let me give you a little tidbit of information about ceramic tile, however. All those beautiful glossy glazes, that's glass. It's a layer of glass on the surface of the ceramics. The thinner the glass layer, the easier it is to scratch. The same holds true of wood, of course. I can snap a stick of wood in my hands, but I wouldn't even try to break a 2x4 over my knee. Thickness equals strength. Next fear, it will chip. Possibly, but the same holds true of stone, as in a countertop application like this, using both glass and stone. Now, if you're going to sling your cast iron Dutch oven at your counter from about 12 inches away, you should expect some damage. Even Corian, Formica, similar laminate or solid composite countertop materials are going to be damaged by that kind of behavior. Some things you just have to whack pretty hard to chip. And the number one fear, the perception of glass. It's delicate and very, very fragile, like a hothouse flower. We've all heard this one. Don't touch it, it's glass. It was burned into our psyches in our childhood. I've watched full-grown adults standing talking to me at an art exhibit, and they hear it. Now, what they hear comes from 30 feet away. It's being addressed to a small child who they have no relation to, and their immediate response is this. We put our hands away. We know glass is fragile. The funniest part? They don't even skip a beat in their conversation. That's how deeply we have this idea embedded. The subtext behind don't touch. It will break. And if I use it for everyday things in my homes, I'm going to break it. That's part of my childhood training. I'm going to drop something on it or in it. For example, a razor, a toothbrush glass, or if you're like me, your coffee mug. Notice this isn't just a glass sink, but it's also a glass countertop. Don't know what to tell you. The coffee mug didn't survive. The sink remains, and it's flawless. Talking about sinks, and this one, since I dropped a coffee mug in it, you might guess it's in my home. One of the other sinks in my home is commercially available porcelain. It has lots of razor chips and other things from being dropped into it. Glass. Wonderful. So just how delicate and fragile is glass? Well, in some ways, it's stronger than steel. Glass has a higher compressive strength than structural steel at 325 megapascals versus steel's 250 megapascals. It's roughly equal to steel in terms of shear strength, or how much pressure it's going to take to break or tear it apart, with steel at 29 and glass at 28.5 gigapascals, respectively. This is one of those moments when I'm really glad for the computer age, because while many of us don't know and may not care about a Pascal measurement, we've at least heard megas and gigas, so we have some idea of how large this is. Just in case you're more technically minded, a Pascal is a measure of force per unit area and is equal to 145.04 pounds per square inch times 10 to the negative sixth. Whew. I know, you're thinking this whole slide with all these measurements seems like it came out of the head of the engineer part. Well, I have to admit that it was the hammer swinger who found this little tidbit about tensile strength of glass first. Where it's gone since then may have something to do with my close association to an engineer, but I really do think it's just a neat concept that glass can be as strong as steel. Notice too that I'm specifying soda lime glass as the glass that we are comparing. That's the kind of glass that I work in, as well as the most common form of glass that most of your household items are made from. Some other types of glass, such as borosilicate, which is what Pyrex is made of, and quartz glass have slightly different properties to include different strength measurements. Now, I'm not saying that glass isn't fragile. It's just that it's not that fragile. Think of it as a nice sturdy marigold rather than that hothouse orchid. Glass is certainly not as elastic as steel. You can see that in the Young's modulus section under elasticity. Steel bends or deflects significantly farther than glass before reaching its breaking point. And I'm not saying that it's absolutely stronger than steel. Measured by ultimate tensile strength, which combines many more measurements than this, it's not. But the idea of don't touch it, it's glass, just is going too far. I will say this, glass sure beats the stuffing out of that other common building material we think of as strong: cement, concrete. The very stuff we put the foundations of our homes on comes in at a whopping 22 megapascals and has an ultimate tensile strength of only 1.1 megapascals. Human skin has a tensile strength of almost 3 times higher. Really makes you glad that they add natural stone and other aggregates in the process of making concrete. There was, in fact, a reason for natural stone being up there on that chart. That and the fact that we use it a lot in the interior of our homes anyhow now. So, measurably, I can say glass is strong. I could also create for you a slide of Vickers hardnesses so I can prove to you just how scratch resistant it is. But I'm going to trust that I don't need to do that for you. It's durable, lasting thousands of years. Glass items from the ancient Greek and Egyptian eras are common in museum collections throughout the world. And glass is easy to maintain. It requires no special cleaners. Ordinary soap and water works just as well as any fancy glass cleaner. So why is it important for me to tell you my knowledge of the properties of glass and debunk some of those myths that we have associated with? Because in reality, I want everyone to be able to move beyond. Don't touch it, it's glass. I want you to be able to move beyond, I can't have glass in my home, I have children, or I have grandchildren. And I want you to not think, I can't have glass, I'm the biggest klutz in the world, I'm going to drop my coffee mug in it. And because I hope that it gives you the power to make unexpected choices. Imagine the possibilities in living with glass, because I absolutely love glass. The beauty inherent in the material stuns me. I want everyone to have the confidence to choose glass for things in their homes besides just windows and have that same experience. And yes, of course, it's good for me and it's good for people like me who make beautiful, distinctive things out of glass, because one day, maybe, you will ask me or someone like me to create something special for your home, like this.
Did you have any fear about moving it in cold weather? Change in temperature, going from indoors, outdoors, indoors?
Absolutely not. Glass is a very stable material. Soda lime glass, to some degree, is thermally sensitive. So it doesn't really like it if you apply a heating iron to one side of it while the other side of it's sitting in a bath of ice. But it has to be that kind of extremity where you're talking about 300 to 400 degree temperature variations between the inside and the outside of the glass surface. Anything else? Questions about what you saw?
What about your glass countertop? Did you make those or are you buy those at the same temperature? glass place for showers and stuff?
Okay, so the glass countertop that was around the sink, yes, that's standard plate, and you can have that created at any glass shop that handles things like shower doors, so forth. Nothing terribly complex. Used in a large counter application, the thing that you really want to know is that it either has to be extremely well supported or very thick in order to cover wide spans. Yes?
Have any business cards or a website?
I do have a website. My website is www.fkartglass.com. FKARTGLASS.com. Anyone else? All right. Thanks for coming. I hope that I showed you a few new ideas and pushed those boundaries of glass for you.